Hey everybody, what's up from Roll, Minnesota, your state of skate. Hey, I'm Butch Lehman, and today we're in for another episode of Rolling Reactions. Now recently, USD Skates announced the re-release of a Dustin Latimer skate, and I believe this is the 30th anniversary edition, and I can't think of a better way to commemorate one of blading's most influential, most creative, and most innovative skaters that we've ever seen in inline skating history. So I wanted to commemorate that myself by taking a look back at some of Dustin Latimer's greatest sections, and he has so many good ones, but today we're going to focus on his section in Words. We'll also take a look at another Mindgame section, his section in Brain Fear Gone, and lastly, we're going to wrap it up with one that I really like. I think it's underrated to some degree, and that's his section in Coup De Tat. So anyway, let's roll into some Dustin Latimer. All right, so starting things off, we have the Mindgame video Words, and I believe in this video, each of the pro skaters had multiple sections, and this is listed as section number 2, and it is a very iconic Dustin Latimer section. What you're gonna get out of this section is a lot of innovative skating, and he was really one of the most influential skaters, and you can see it even all these years later, several decades after this video premiered. A lot of people are still working to emulate some of that style and unique approach to skating that Dustin brought to the table. You already get that wall flip there. It's almost like a Miller flip off of a vertical wall out in the streets. Really cool trick idea. And it also reminds me of Farmer. If you remember, Chris Farmer had the trick and adventures in rollerblading. And I believe he was on the Jump Street podcast recently talking about how Dustin Latimer was one of the influential mentors that helped change Chris's approach to skating, going for a more traditional rail skater, spin skater, to doing some of those creative tricks that we all know and love out of Chris Farmer. So anyway, this is one of my favorite videos. I think if we're looking at the most iconic videos ever produced in rollerblading history, there's definitely a couple of Mindgame videos that I think would be worthy of consideration, but in my mind, the crown jewel of Mindgame is going to be Words. This trick I absolutely love. It's like a cess slide over into topsoul on the ledge, then jumping back to the wall ride. You're going to get a lot of transfer action out of Dustin in these video parts. Not just this one, but really all three. A lot of cess slides too. He's cess sliding under the rail out of that fish brain. Really cool use of a spot. Speaking of wall rides, we've got a wall ride to grind here, and it's actually an in-spin to wall ride, and I like how he just casually sits down at the end and all the homies are down there waiting for him. It's just so effortless. And that's one of the things that I think is a good takeaway from somebody with Dustin's skating chops, where it's not just that he's doing these unusual things or imposing an element, integrating an element of creativity and artistry into his skating, but he's doing it in a way that's stylistically and visually appealing. And you'll see that fluidity in a lot of these tricks that he does, how he's able to enter into those tricks, but also exit from them in a way that really shouldn't be done. Like, the human body isn't meant to move like that. This is one of the examples that I mean. You get the hand plant over the soul stall, the fast plant back over to almost like, I don't know, like a Phillips 66 looking type of hand plant. Speaking of which, you got that really inverted sideways fakie 360 over the bench there. I could just watch this type of skating all day. I absolutely love what Dustin brought to the table, and really excited to see that he's still being remembered fondly by the skating community and respected by being given a pro skate all these years later. Awesome trick here. I still haven't quite figured this one out. I've watched it so many times, and the flow of the actual flip, it's like the opposite of what I would typically do on a Miller flip. So I'm not really sure. I can't fully digest it just yet. Maybe I'll watch it back in slow motion sometime. On the cess slide down the stairs. He did put in a little wall ride into that hand plant as well. Sometimes that's a subtle detail that can be missed from that second camera angle. Cess slide down a wall. It's a sentence that doesn't get uttered enough in inline skating. You know, there was a time too when med spins were all of the rage, and that was like a cess slide med spin into, I think it was like a in-spin 270 front royale. Just such a good skater. I think one of the other things that's worth commenting on too is the time period that Dustin entered skating, and when he was laying down these types of tricks, he really came at just the right time for blading to influence it into a new direction. And I remember this time in skating very fondly. Maybe many of you do as well. It's when we had a lot of skate contests, the street contests. You had the IMYTA series, there's the ASA tour. rollerblading recently removed from the X Games, but not far removed. So a lot of talent out there, but taking it in that new direction. All right, rewinding the clock a little bit, we're sticking with Mindgame, but we're going back to another video, Brain Fear Gone. And one of the things that I love about this video upon repeat viewings is the symmetry, the bookend tricks at the beginning and the end. We get this 360 drop in off of the overpass from the highway. And I don't want to spoil it for you, but there's a lot of iconic tricks in this video. I'm sure you're familiar with it if you've followed skating for a while, but that last one is also a banger. Going back to my earlier comments though from the previous video, this was an era of skating that I think was looked upon as the golden era. I myself look upon this time period really fondly. With all the different competition series, you had a major focus on progression with spin to win tricks, large obstacles, whether they're disasters or drop rails or kink rails or a combination of the three: disaster, 2 drop, kink rail. But Dustin was taking things in a new direction. And so in that way, I feel like he was very ahead of his time and almost like a time traveler, giving all the other skaters out there a vision of what the future of blading could look like. How can you infuse those tech elements and that unique creativity and that artistry into skating while keeping that level of difficulty and technicality that some of those stunt skates bring along with it? So I'm a big fan. And again, I think the role that he played in the sport was absolutely perfect, especially considering the time period that he emerged from. It's a pretty big trick here, in fact, if we're talking about stunts. Very big gap out to this rail, just holding that front side forever. Even coming off, that's a fairly big drop off the rail. Fast slides. Out of all the one-footed tricks out there, that's the one that I understand the least. It is a difficult trick for me to do. I know some people out there are extremely comfortable with it. Props to everybody out there that has fast slides on lock. We'll just go up the ledge casually. I think I remember too in a interview, or maybe it was a Daily Bread magazine, reading about how rarely Dustin Latimer competed in actual organized competitions, particularly park competition series. I don't remember specifically. I can't recall many competitions that he was in, so maybe I'm misremembering that, but I think that's also an interesting fact about him, if it is in fact accurate. Because a lot of people that enter the sport are looking for that type of exposure, the recognition that being a competitor brings along with it. But I think by the same token, there's a number of people out there that enjoy the sport because it doesn't have that traditional organized competition structure. You know, it's not like a team sport where it's all about becoming the best, winning as a team, relying upon other people. There's that element of self-definition that comes into skating, and something that I think that Dustin understood and perhaps still understands better than the vast majority of people that have ever skated. This is really cool. The soul grind transfer over the kink. Really stylish on that alley-oop soul too. A wall ride on the fountain sculpture. Very photogenic trick right there. I hope there's a photo or something of that. I feel like that'd be a good photo spot. Now, a little fun fact that I'm sure many of you are already familiar with, but the video Brain Fear Gone was an anagram. Rearrange the letters. Aaron Feinberg. He has the secret section in this video. The lineup to this video, very impressive ensemble of skaters. That's cool. Nice 540 out on that one. That's one of my favorite ledge tricks. I think it's one of the safest ones too. You guys can correct me if I'm wrong there. But a really nice photogenic spot here as well. I know everybody's got their safety tricks, and we were talking about this at the skate park the other night. Top soles for me are not nearly as safe as top horns, and I know a lot of people out there are really comfortable with sweaties, which I would argue are the most dangerous trick to do, straight up. But with top horns, I always feel like you have less danger of clipping the rail because your legs are crossed and you can pull them in together. That was really sick, by the way. But sweaty, it lures you into this false sense of security just for your foot to slip out. I know top soles out there, that's probably the most popular safety trick. You guys will have to let me know which is your safety trick. Maybe it's not even a top side. This though is on record as perhaps being the best 540 ever done. Look at this. You get the two different angles. That side angle just attests to how big of a gap this was. I know there's a lot of passionate people out there that will tell you the best 540 of all time. Dustin Latimer, brain fear gone. All right, finally, we're going to wrap it up with a video that does get a lot of recognition, but I feel like it's often forgotten when we're talking about like the most iconic Dustin Latimer sections, and that's his part in Coup De Tat. And there are so many amazing tricks in this video as well. And it's a pretty old video by today's standards. So you look back on something like this, and again, you're entering that different era of rollerblading, the time of baggy sweatpants and spin-to-win grinds and hammers. And speaking of which, you get a full cab alley-oop soyelle there. Really nice trick. It's one of my personal favorites, actually. I like how the person was running to get out of the way on that wall ride. True spin topsoul. Look at that drop in. That is a crazy ledge. Like, I've seen some pretty scary drop-ins, but to do it on a kink that steep adds an element of danger. Like, if you're not distributing your body weight effectively, face plant. Nice alley-oop fish down the kink rail, too. That's one that is very rarely performed on a kink rail. I think this spot was featured a couple of times, and that's one of those tricks that I think is deceptively difficult, along with a really hard hold on the backslide. But to do a grind that quickly off a high obstacle and then immediately jump over the wall, for a lot of people, it takes a little bit of recovery time on the landing and the compression, and then to recompress and then jump off is a lot to perform in just that instantaneous motion. So these are little subtleties that I think a lot of us can appreciate that have been skating for a long time, but to outside observers, they might not look at it the same way. Another full cab alley-oop soyelle. Far side on that ledge. Kind of tricked me out on that one. I wasn't really expecting that. You'll notice, too, that this is a little bit earlier, and so maybe it has a little bit less of that creative aspect to skating and is a bit more traditional. But you still get that sense of creativity and spot selection coming into Dustin's choice of tricks, even this early in his career. He's often regarded as one of the most stylish skaters out there as well, and that's something that I think is wholly justified, especially the time period that he's coming from, where people didn't have access to as many skate parks or as much experience growing up skating from a really early age, or having the technology with innovations in blade design and frame design and different types of wheels and hardnesses. All of that technology plays a difference as well. He's always skating overpasses. Now that I think of it, I don't think I've ever seen a Dustin Latimer part where he wasn't skating a drainage ditch or an overpass or something and finding something to grind, to gap, to cess slide. Another classic trick of, I absolutely love those spins into wall ride. Very difficult for me. That was really nice too. Got up there with both feet. Sometimes people cheat a little bit on the wall rides and they just get one foot up there. Still cool, but got both of them up there. That is a really high jump. Holy crap. I know too, like, sometimes people underestimate how difficult it is to jump up to an obstacle when you're going downhill. I remember once I was skating a handicap rail, and the handicap rail was actually slightly angled up as the runway was angled down, and it just throws off your depth perception on everything. And I don't even know how to describe it. It just makes everything so unnatural. Beautiful backslide. Textbook on that one. I think we saw this spot earlier in one of the other videos. I don't know if it was the same spot, but I think it might have been one that he did a sweaty on. Speaking of drainage ditches, there it was. We can add that to the bingo card. Question that I do have for all of you out there. I know that Dustin spent a lot of time in Arizona, but what I don't know for sure is if he's originally from Arizona. Like, I do recognize a lot of Arizona spots in multiple of his videos. In particular, I'm thinking to his parts around the Tech era. I believe he had part sections in like Feet, Tech 2, and I know he was always part of that crew. But is he originally from Arizona, or did he move there? Or was it just some time that he spent out there? Not really sure. You guys will have to let me know. Somebody's got the inside scoop on the Arizona scene. But shout out to that scene. Love Arizona. They've always produced some really good videos and some amazing skaters from that part of the country. This looked like an improvised line. He looked like he was going to be done, and perhaps the friends were encouraging to keep going. It's almost like doing laps around. These night sessions are really fun too. I'm sure many of you have had the opportunity to have these night sessions with friends, find a well-lit up spot and just session for hours. Something about skating at night, get a little bit of a reprieve from the crispness and the heat and the humidity. Maybe not so much in Arizona, perhaps. It's probably still hot at night, but something magical about those night sessions. This is really unfortunate. This is hard to watch, especially as I get older. When he fell, he's talking about how everything locked up and went numb, and very likely concussion situation, like especially now as a teacher and going through some coaching and being able to recognize signs of a concussion. Really dangerous situation to keep like skating through that, especially without a helmet on. So I'm guilty of that sometimes myself, of pushing through injuries, skating without a helmet. You guys got to be safe out there though. Anyway, guys, that's going to wrap it up for this episode of Rolling Reactions featuring Dustin Latimer. I've said it before and I'll say it again, but Dustin is unequivocally one of the most stylish, one of the most innovative, and one of the most influential skaters that rollerblading has ever seen. And I think we owe him a lot when it comes to the development of the sport, pushing the progression and blending that fusion of style, creativity, artistry, technicality, and a bit of stunt skating for good measure. Anyway, Dustin's got a new skate coming out. It's being released by USD. I believe it's celebrating and commemorating the 30th anniversary of USD, and I'm really excited for it. You guys will have to let me know what you think about that skate down in the comments below. Anyway, guys, I'm Butch Lehman of Roll, Minnesota, reminding you to stay safe, stay healthy, and get out there and do some rollerblading. Till next time, everybody, peace.